when we deliberately or not get an image of another person or of ourselves, it's moving through the portal of the mind, which is the imagination.
It's moving through what of the mind?
The window of the mind, which is the imagination, images. Which is directly connected with seeing, with the visual aspect. In this case, with imagination. In a meditation, it's the visual aspect within our world, independent of the outer physical world. So in this, there is really the opening of a chance to master a split inside ourselves, which is in its roots unconscious. Because there is the one who is seeing, and there is the image which comes forward as an object of who we are, or what we are, or what is seen. There's two. There's the one looking, and there's the image of ourselves that we are contemplating, looking at. Is it a true image? The subject of this workshop is also truth. The amazing thing about imagination is that it's extremely creative. And there's a whole area of therapy that works with this. So for example, if we were to see an abandoned, neglected, sad image of ourselves, we have the creative power in a moment to project there also a happy, free, enlightened version of ourselves. I'm not saying we should do that, but that's how subtle it is, imagination. It's creative. Where the mastery is in making this creative power more conscious. Meaning to be conscious that the image that we see is a creation of a deeper layer of ourselves, even if it's not deliberate. If it's a creation of ourselves, it's not an absolute truth. The self which is able to create is much more close to home, to truth,
than the self that gets created.
Than the image which is created. But it's still truth in a relative way, very true. Even if we were to consciously decide to see ourselves in a certain way, it has a truth. It's an aspect of, because we can be a million different forms. With the same body, with the same habits, with the same background, with exactly as we are now, we can be a million different, billion, infinite amount of different forms. So the mastery is in opening up that freedom. So why, let's say, we're in the positive school of thought here. Let's say we decide we want to see ourselves happy and enlightened, and like this we will manifest ourselves as happy and enlightened. There's the schools of thought that believe this.
Schools of thought.
Yes. So let's say we move with that and we have like Gina happy and enlightened and with everything she wants. And then, next thing Gina experiences is Gina alone and in a state of loss and abandoned. It comes immediately of itself, involuntary, as if it's an answer to that. The moment we move and say, this one is true and this one is not true, or I want this one and I don't want this one, we are creating in a way which isn't so helpful to our freedom. We're limiting ourselves. Both images interdepend, are there as aspects of something which is much more real, much more true. Both are there. The person who has everything, in that moment of having everything, also has absolutely nothing. They go together. The person who feels they possess is a person already moving with grief and loss, because it can be lost, what is possessed. From that level, from the level of grasping, holding on, wanting this, not wanting that. So why would the image of a negative image come forward of itself? It's not only as an answer to the positive image, it's a direct translation of what is there in the energy, where there's a conflict, where there's a struggle, of what is. And what is can be unconscious. Just as an energy presence, it can be unconscious simply because we don't want to put our consciousness there. We want the good stuff, not the bad stuff. But it is there in the energy. It is here in the human field. It's here as a possibility. Everything is here. So a very good way to move with the imagination, whether it's an image of another person when we imagine each other, or an image of ourselves, which we tend to constantly reconstruct. How do I look now? Is to, in a way, let go of the image and move with the feeling of the image, the feeling around it, the feeling of what is. You see a person, that's nice, so maybe even a person psychically is connecting to you. So try to feel the connection. Feel what's happening there. When you begin to move with the feeling of what's happening there in the image of another person, for example, you're getting a lot of information, or a lot of sensory information. This is attunement. Not only if they're psychically connecting with you and they need something from you, or they've got something with you. Also, it doesn't even matter if you're psychically connecting with them and you're imagining them because you've got something with them. It's a shared need. The actual other person is less relevant, but if that other person is connecting with you, when you move with the feeling level, you deepen the connection. It becomes more true. It moves out of judgment. For example, we can have an argument with somebody, an entanglement, which is unresolved. So their image keeps coming forward. Also maybe the image of yourself as well and how you behaved. Because something's not at peace in the mind. And on the level of the mind, you can connect with the image and you can say, okay, this person's really angry with me and I'm really angry with them. And we stay in this subject-object thing. We stay in this split. If you move with the feeling behind it, and indeed the feeling at first could feel like anger, and it doesn't matter if it's your own or if it's theirs, but a disquiet, an unrest, a fear and an anger. This can be what's there, and after such a conflict, all of that. But when you move with the feeling of it, it loses its labels. It's no longer about Ray Vital and you. It's really moving into an honoring of the energy. And it's not like you move into the feeling of anger and you get angry. This is not what happens when you move with what is there, beyond the judgments of the mind. What tends to happen is that the anger, just the feeling of it, the energy. Take off the word even anger already, or fear, or take off all the labels, because each anger and fear is unique. In its like each soup is unique. And just feel it, you tend to get to the pain which is there. It can feel just like pain. And we're healers, right? We're healers. Life is a healer. And it doesn't matter if it's your pain or their pain, or the pain which is between you, or the pain which is in the planet. It's pain which is here for us to allow home. It's just pain. So we have this very deep program running through our system, which on the level of pure survival makes sense, which is to avoid pain and go for pleasure. As if it was possible to have only one of them. But it has roots down to the deep unconscious. And in this, the division appears between people quite strongly, as if another person's happiness can't be your happiness as well. As if another person's pain isn't your pain as well. As if the well-being of your neighbor is your well-being. If we know it in our minds, but if we really got this in our guts, there would be an expansion of happiness and well-being. This is something which can be known as an ethic, but as an experience is an ongoing process of living here and now, with little challenges all the way, of evolution. Our attitude to pain is that it's the enemy. This is really, really tricky, because when you move into an education in healing, for example, you have an agenda which is to heal, that it will be good, which very easily crosses this fine line into there will be pleasure and there will not be pain, which by itself very easily crosses into a fine line that death is not allowed. And before we know it, we come into a kind of quite a unevolved space of competition, rivalry, it's me versus them, seeing the other as the enemy. Because of this simple agenda to heal. And if the agenda to heal means that we reject pain, then how can we heal anything? The pain has to be with the other, with the client. I'm okay, the pain's not with me, it's with it's with all those people that come to me. As long as it's with them, I can be happy. The pain. A lot of psychologists are in this mode. You walk into a psychologist's office, you are mentally afflicted, by definition. The only way to not be mentally afflicted is not to go into a psychologist's office. There's a subtle agenda that sanity stays with them and the trouble is all with the other, with the clients. And it's not just conscious, it's an energetic aversion to pain. We don't want pain. And of course the pain we don't want more than anything else is the most intimate pain inside ourselves. Partly because it's just too painful. And because we've developed a lifetime habit, or maybe even a generational habit, of not going there. Assisted by our imagination and by our thought processes and by our beliefs. But if this pain, which we believed was a creation of an argument we had with our neighbour yesterday turns out to be, in its core, something very, very helpless and suffering, like an abandoned child, which is knocking at our door to come home. If we saw it like this, just the phenomena of the pain, this child wants to come into the warmth, wants to come back into the wholeness. Not one of us would reject it. But also here, it's not so simple that we can make this bravado movement and take the child home, this suffering, abandoned configuration of pain, and take it in. Sometimes it doesn't want to come. It's energetic. It's been in this freeze position for a while, but it got to the door. You know she's there, the girl, the little abandoned child. She's there, but she doesn't want trust enough to move in. So what do we do then? If it was a child that had been lost in the forest, hungry, at the door of our heart, but it's afraid to come in, how do we deal with it? We don't force it. In the first place, we stay near her. We stay near her and we open the attunement in such a way that every little twitch in our direction, we're open. The care becomes so refined that it surrounds her, this area of pain. It surrounds her in a way that there begins to be a little bit of a relaxation, a movement into trust. It begins to move forward, inwards. We put our resistance aside like, this is really not the issue. The issue is the needs of the energy itself, where it needs to go, in its own time. In this, we are opening up a whole vibrational attunement. It's a kind of attunement which is entirely attuning to the love inside the pain. The love which will recognize the love coming through us as the way in.
Recognize, say that thing about recognizing.
The love, it's like you need like water molecules. Recognize water molecules. They blend into one like nothing. So if love was made of molecules, the pain itself is a freeze, in a way, a contraction of love. It's made of love. Otherwise there would be no pain. It sounds like a big leap, and you need to check it with your own feeling that abandonment is about love. The pain of a rejection is about love. It's made of love. Otherwise it wouldn't be painful. Its whole logic is love. Meaning when it's surrounded with care and unconditional love, the love in the pain recognizes the love which surrounds it. So it's like ice, which is still water. It begins to melt. It begins to come home into the flow. Into a flow of love which isn't in any way your love. It's a love which is moving through us. But the pain is yours. The moment the pain is yours, in the sense of this physical life, if the pain is there, it is yours. It doesn't matter how it got there, it is ours. So on the level of the mind, which is still quite formed on fear, the mind is still quite formed on fear, it doesn't really like what is. What is here now. It likes what should be here or what was here before. The moment it moves into what is, into the present moment, there is an opening to check, to attune what actually is, which is deeper than the mind. And then, as long as it's all peace, love and unity, the mind can deal with that. But at the moment there's a form appearing, or pain, or discomfort, or impatience, or aversion, or a need to grasp, what the mind will do is say, okay, this is what is. Hold it. But it's already something else. What is can't be held. You can be with what is. You can't possess it. We are full of such energetic imprints of the mind's holding, as if what is there forever. For example, let's say from the moment we were born into a particular family, as children, and all the brothers and sisters the same, we only ever look in this direction. And we only ever look in this direction. We never look over there. Over there doesn't exist collectively, it's not there. So we're trained like this. So you look at what is, it's like this. This doesn't exist. So a good question to ask when we move into being with what is what else is? What also is? If our whole lives we've been energetically programmed, which if we're talking about now unconscious programming, to look this way and this doesn't exist, the very possibility that something could be here will create fear at first. So the fear is. If we allow the fear that is, and even acknowledge that this could be a flag saying, hey, something exciting. There's something exciting because there's fear. If we can totally allow the fear that is by itself, there can be an expansion and a deepening. In a very, very safe way, because even if we were programmed our whole life to look this way, anyway, we all saw in the corner of our eye stuff was here. It's not so scary.